What's up guys, Ryan Hafey with Hafey Digital here, and I've got a very important question to ask you. It's just one of those questions that everyone seems to keep talking about, but no one has the answer to, and that is this: PUBG or Fortnite? Personally, I'll admit it, I am a PUBG guy. Sorry, Fortniters. I don't know if that's what they call you, but people who play Fortnite, I'm sorry. I'm a PUBG guy. Most specifically, PUBG Mobile, mostly because the desktop version I find to be a little too difficult because I'm not much of a gamer. But anyway, the more and more that I play PUBG, I realize that it's actually a really good metaphor for explaining the concept of back button focus. And that is exactly the topic of this video. So, what is back button focus? Why should you use it? Why shouldn't you be using it? How do you set it up? And what does it have to do with PUBG? We'll get into that in just a minute. Okay, so back button focus. What the heck is it? Well, if you've been interested in photography for any period of time at all, you've probably heard the phrase back button focus at one point or another. So what is back button focus? Well, it's basically just what it sounds like. It's using a button on the back of the camera to focus on your subject as opposed to using the shutter button. But before we go too much further, let's take a step back and talk about what the primary functions of the shutter button are. Now, by default, when you get a camera out of the box, your shutter button is going to perform three primary functions. Number one, it's going to focus on your subject. Number two, it's going to meter your scene. In other words, it's going to measure the amount of light that's coming into the camera to determine proper exposure settings. And number three, it's going to obviously take the photo. What back button focus does is it basically separates those functions between the shutter button and the button that you're using to focus on the back of the camera. Now, technically it sounds like it's extra work, and I guess it is. You're using multiple buttons now to do what you could before do on just one button, the shutter button. So that's where the PUBG correlation comes in. Now imagine you're playing PUBG or really any other shoot 'em up or battle royale style game, and you see an opponent in the distance. You're going to pull out your scope and you're going to go for that headshot. So what you'll typically do is with one hand, or in this case your thumb if you're playing PUBG Mobile, you're going to aim for your subject's head with your thumb, right? And while your right hand is aiming, your left hand is hovering right over that fire button, right? You're just waiting for the perfect moment to hit that fire button, shoot your shot, and kill your opponent. And that's exactly what you're doing when you're using back button focus. You're using one finger to press one button to focus on your subject, and then you're using your other finger to press on the shutter button to capture that perfect shot right at the right time. So what are some of the benefits of back button focus? Well, for example, I do a lot of boxing photography, and I like to use continuous autofocus. If you use a Canon, that's called AI Servo. On the back of your Canon is the AF on button. Let's see if you can see that there. And that's basically the button that you are going to use if you're using back button focus. So what I'll do when I'm shooting boxing is I'll point my camera directly at one of the fighters. I'll have my focus point right at one of the fighters. I'll follow them around just holding this button in, because as long as you have this button pressed in, it's going to continuously focus on the fighter as they move around the ring. So I don't have to even worry about that. Once I hit that AF on button and hold it in, I just follow the fighter around and I wait for that perfect shot. And when it comes, all I have to do is press this shutter button. If I wanted to, I could hold that AF on button for the entire fight and keep that focus right on the fighter and wait for that perfect shot, right for that punch right to the head. Boom, you're right there and ready to go to take that photo. And the cool thing about using that particular setup, meaning using continuous autofocus with back button focus, is you can also use that setup to take single photos. So for example, if I was aiming at my subject, I could focus, press the AF on button, get that focus, let go of the AF on button, recompose, press my shutter button, and not have to worry about refocusing, that type of stuff before getting my shot. What back button focus is not so great for is if you want someone to, say, take a photo of you. It's kind of hard to explain to someone how to use a camera that's set up for back button focus if they don't really know what back button focus is or aren't really familiar with a DSLR. So in those cases, you may run into some issues. But other than that, it really just comes down to personal preference. I personally love back button focus. I picked it up right away and I've been using it ever since, but it's really whatever makes you comfortable. My recommendation would be to set it up on your camera, give it a shot. If you don't like it, just switch back to what you're comfortable with. So how exactly do you set it up? Well, that's obviously going to depend on the camera that you have. I have a Canon 7D Mark II here. Obviously, I wouldn't have time to go through and show you how to set it up on every single camera out there, but if you don't have a Canon camera similar to this one, I'm sure you can probably find a tutorial somewhere on YouTube that will show you how to set it up for your particular model. But for my Canon users out there, this is how you would set it up on your camera. So the first thing you want to do, turn your camera on and you want to go into your menu, and you want to find the custom controls menu, which is basically under that orange icon on the third page. Once you find custom controls, you want to click into that, and the very first option is going to be the custom control for your shutter button. Now, if you click into that, it's going to be set to metering and AF start by default. You want to change that to AE lock, auto exposure lock. It's basically the symbol that looks like a little asterisk. And what that's going to do is that's going to take the focusing and metering functions away from the shutter button, so that the only thing the shutter button is going to do now is take the picture when it's pressed down. Once you've set that, the next thing you want to do is go back and then go down one place to the AF on button, click into that, and just make sure that it's set to metering and AF start. Now, my Canon 7D Mark II is already set to that by default, so I won't have to do anything to change it, but it's just good to make sure that that's what it's set to. So once you've gone through and made those settings changes, what will happen is that your back button, your AF on button, will now be responsible for focusing and metering all at once, and then your shutter button will only be responsible for taking the photo once you're ready to get the shot. And that's it. That's back button focus in a nutshell. I hope I was able to clear up any confusion you may have had about what back button focus is and how it works. And I hope that PUBG reference also cleared things up for you a little bit as well. Like I said before, give it a shot, see how you like it. If you don't like it, switch back. But like I said, I've come to really enjoy it, and it can work really for any style of photography that you do. All right, that's it for this video. If you liked it, I do ask that you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and while you're at it, hit me up on PUBG Mobile and let's play together. That's it for me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.